and welcome to Walking Down the Manny Road, a brand new podcast brought to you by Burnden Aces, one of the leading supporters websites for Bolton Wanderers Football Club. My name is Chris Mann, and joining me today is a former Wanderers captain. He made 173 appearances for the club between 2012 and 2017 and currently wears the armband at League One rivals Blackpool. My guest on episode 1 of Walking Down the Manny Road is Jay Spearing. Indeed, Jay Spearing is our guest on episode 1 of Walking Down the Manny Road. But before we bring Jay in, I just want to pause for a moment and give a brief introduction as to who we are, how we got to this point, and what our plans are going forward. Burnden Aces is a Bolton Wanderers supporters website that has been in existence now since 2007. You can find us online at burndenaces.co.uk or through one of our social media channels. On Twitter, we go under the handle @BurndenAces, and we're also on Facebook at facebook.com/BurndenAces. A couple of years ago now, we ran a user survey in which we requested your feedback on how we could improve our offerings to you as a news outlet. By far the biggest takeaway from that was that we didn't offer enough interviews with players past or present, and there's different reasons for that. Sometimes interviews just don't turn out the way you would expect. Sometimes there are logistical and timing issues involved. And from a personal standpoint, we've been reluctant thus far to enter the podcast market. Bolton Wanderers are very lucky to have 4 superb podcasts already on the market. One is from the club themselves. Another is from the Bolton News, courtesy of Mark Isles. Another is through BBC Radio Manchester from Jack Dearden and his team, and we've also got the Line of Vienna Suites offerings through Will Jones and the rest of the guys over there. What we plan to do a little bit different, we will obviously upload the audio for you to listen to, but we'll also put video interviews up on YouTube and our website for you where it makes sense. One of those interviews is today with Jay Spearing, and whether that continues or not largely depends on your feedback. Positive or negative, we want to hear it. You can do that publicly through our social media channels, or you can do it privately if you would prefer. Our DM and private message facilities are open on social media, and you can contact me directly by emailing admin@burndenaces.co.uk. Your feedback will help shape this podcast and potentially determine whether or not it becomes a weekly, bi-weekly, monthly feature or just gets canned after 2 or 3 episodes. So without further ado, let's bring in Jay Spearing. In Wallace in Merseyside, you enrolled in the Liverpool Academy in 1997 and made it all the way through to the first team. Debut came in a Champions League win at PSV Eindhoven in December 2008. That was an 11-year journey for you to get to that point.
Yeah.
What did it mean stepping out at the Philips Stadium for not just your hometown team as such, but the team that you grew up supporting as well?
Simply put, it is a dream come true. I know obviously it's a bit of a cliche. A lot of people say it, but for me, as a local lad and a big Liverpool fan from a toddler, it was everything that I'd worked, like you just said, from joining the academy at 7. I'd worked all my career to get to that moment, and to step out and get the nod from Rafa and said, "Listen, you're going on." It was a dream come true, and something that I'd put the hard hours in. The family put the hard hours in of obviously taking me to training week in, week out, and it all come down to that moment, and something that I'll never ever forget.
Obviously, growing up, people will always have that ambition to become a footballer. I think that's becoming more and more prevalent in girls as well now.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter which club you support, which club you go on to play for. Obviously, that is an ambition. Looking at the players that were with you at the time coming through the Liverpool Academy, another name that stands out that night in Eindhoven was Stephen Darby. He also came on as a substitute. Darby is familiar to Bolton fans, obviously had a couple of years with us. Unfortunately, career had to come to an end due to his illness. What was Stephen Darby like growing up as a teenager? Obviously, your paths separated as you moved on to different clubs after Liverpool, but Bolton fans who maybe don't know quite so much about him due to his limited time at the club, what was he like as a footballer and as a man as well?
Do you know what, mate? As a footballer, he was probably one of the most professional players I've probably ever been alongside. The professionalism he had on and off the field was incredible. He lived for it like everybody else. Like, listen, everybody else lives for it, but he was a real professional. He'd always do his work extra more. He'd always work as hard as he would ever. And then as a person off the field, he was very quiet. He was a family man. He obviously loved to spend time with his family and his friends. But he was very quiet until he got on that pitch. Once he got onto that pitch, he was very vocal, very loud. Loved to tackle. He wasn't always the strongest lad that probably you've always seen. He was a skinny man, but that never put him off a tackle. Didn't scare him. He'd always give 110% in every single training session and game, and he was an honour to be around. And like you said, sadly, with obviously his career's had to come to a short end, but he's in a real good place at the minute. He's very positive about everything that's going on, and he's fighting this horrible disease front on. He's not letting it defeat him, and he's an absolute credit to know. I'm lucky enough to call him one of my closest friends. We did go on different career paths, but we've kept in touch incredibly well, and I'd even class him as one of my best friends.
Good, and obviously we wish Stephen Darby the best, not just with the illness and unfortunately everything that comes with that, but the charity work that he's done as well.
Yeah.
Real credit to himself. Another name, just looking at the team sheet from that night in Eindhoven, we hadn't realised this, but another name that actually started that night, another one familiar to Bolton fans, is Devon and Gog.
Yeah.
Looking at his career path, really easy to actually lose track of where he's up to. And a quick check at the moment, just get this right, shows in February signed for Lithuanian side FK Zalgiris.
Wowza.
Is David and Gog a name that anyone at Liverpool has kept in touch with, or what can you sort of say in terms of where he's gone with his career? Big money signing for Bolton at the time. Obviously, he's not quite lived up to expectations.
Do you know what, mate? David, from what when I played with David and trained with David, he was very, very quiet. Like, really quiet. Even on and off the field, he's a very quiet boy. Kept himself to himself. He'd come into training, he'd say hello in the morning, he'd do his work, train, and then he'd be done and he'd be off. And to be honest with you, Dave, he was a nice guy. I haven't got a bad word to say about him. I thought he was a genuine nice guy, but from our past, didn't really speak to him a lot because he was just a very quiet boy. He kept himself very, very much so with the French lads a lot. And as I say, his career path took a way that it's took, and for whatever reason, it's took that path. But I still wish him all the best and hope that he's happy, and he's obviously had the career as much as possible that he can use his talent with.
Okay, brilliant. We'll move on a little bit from that night in Eindhoven now then, and onto your first Anfield appearance, or first senior Anfield appearance. That was also in the Champions League, and it was again as a substitute, this time against Real Madrid. Okay, coming on for Steven Gerrard. You're 4-0 up, under the floodlights. Obviously, everyone knows about the history. So you've described what it felt like to come through the academy and play for your boyhood club away from home. Was that feeling any different once you got back to Anfield? Not just the fact that it's Real Madrid, but Liverpool, Champions League night, Anfield. What's that?
It doesn't get much better, does it, mate, to be honest? For me, it's hard to sum up. I get asked about this question quite a lot. Again, you could just class it as you've worked all your young career, as you say. You're coming through the academy, working hard to to have that moment of going out onto the Anfield turf. Okay, we did it in the Youth Cup a couple of times, so you get that feeling of what really the stadium is and getting changed in the changing room, etc. But like you just said, it's a Champions League night. It's Real Madrid at home. I think at the time, it was 3-0 when I came on at the time, and to get 25 minutes to come on for obviously Stevie G and get the nod. I always remember the call back from Rafa, and it was a bit of a feeling of, oh my God, this is happening, but also a feeling of, yes, come on, like this is my moment to go and just enjoy myself. I always remember obviously thinking about like my dad, family, everyone was in the crowd, all the family were there because obviously they knew that I was on the bench. I think I sold about 20 odd tickets, or maybe more. Everyone was watching it on Sky as well, and do you know what? It was just an utter, all-round, genuine, real good feeling. It's hard to explain it, but again, something that will never be taken, and one I thoroughly enjoyed.
Fantastic. So, move on from the start now just a little bit, because obviously as a young player, you don't get many chances at that stage. But over the next 3 years or so, first team appearances were coming in little bits of spells until January 2011, Kenny Dalglish comes back to the club. That's when things really started to take off for you.
Yeah.
Okay. You got a starting role in the 2012 FA Cup final.
Yeah.
Just how much of an influence did he have on your early career?
Do you know what, mate? I think Kenny Dalglish was massive. All the managers that were there were massive. I learned a lot of different things from each one. I loved every single minute of working under each one. Like you said, over the next 3 years after that, I played a lot of Carling Cup, Europa League, etc., etc. The odd Champions League, odd little time, and then obviously made Premier League debut and stuff like that. So I had a lot of successful time, enjoyed every single minute of it. But then that really area of Kenny Dalglish, like you've said, where he settled into the side, got involved. Had a fantastic season. We had obviously 2 fantastic cup runs. Unlucky to lose to Chelsea in the FA Cup final, but played in the FA Cup final at Wembley. We beat Everton in the semi-final of the FA Cup final. We won the Carling Cup, and just an all-round like superb experience for me, and just lived every again another dream of mine to be consistent in the Liverpool team, walking out at Anfield every week, and just representing the club that I'd always dreamed of doing. Again, it was a fantastic time and loved every single minute of it.
Okay, and obviously, after the good spell for you personally with Kenny Dalglish, he lost his job at the end of the 2011-12 season.
Yeah.
Brendan Rodgers was next in, and you played a couple of Europa League games.
Yeah.
But very quickly, it looks as though you weren't part of his plans.
Yeah.
After lining up in a European game against Hearts, a week later you were playing for Bolton in the Championship. So how quickly was that decision made to branch out, but also to drop down a level, not just Premier League where you've been playing the year before, but to a Wanderers team at the time that were looking to get back to the top flight?
That all came from and did pre-season with Brendan Rodgers. When that pre-season come along, we flew to America. I had discussions with him. I said, obviously, like, what are the plans for the season ahead? He said, listen, I want you to stick around. I want you to stick around, I want you to be part of it. He said, obviously, you might not play as many games as you played last year. He said, but you will obviously start, say, half of them, but then come off the bench in a lot of them. But for me as a player, I think I was 21, 22 at the time. And having had that season of playing maybe 35 games consistently in the season, and having the cup runs as well, it was maybe a force in mind of thinking, listen, I want to play regular football week in, week out. I don't want to just be half and hearted. If you wanted me there, then like you'd say to me, listen, you're going to play every game. So it was a decision I took on myself. I do not regret that decision. I felt it was the right decision for me. And it was for me to branch out. And I think that the loan decision went on for a good couple of weeks. That's why I still played in Europa League. I had to make sure it was the right decision for me. And I felt that the decision made at the time was the right decision. I felt it was a fantastic year. Loved every single minute of it, and it was a good one, and no hard feelings towards Brendan. He shook my hand and said, listen, I wish you all the best. I hope you go and perform well, and fingers crossed it goes well for you. So there's no regrets of that time of me leaving Liverpool. It was just one of them times where I felt that it was time for me to move on. I'd lived everything that I'd ever wanted to do at Liverpool.
Okay, and that's good to hear as well, because you do obviously hear about a lot of younger players who do sit it out. We see it at some of the top clubs like City and Chelsea, for example, where 30, 40 players get sent out on loan. Sort of the stockpiling's the word that's been used in the past.
Yeah.
So again, it takes a little bit of guts to go out on loan and prove yourself as well. Sometimes you go back to the clubs you came from, get yourself into the first team. If that doesn't work out, as in your case it eventually proved, you get a move out of it.
Yeah.
So moving on, or moving away from Liverpool now.
Yeah.
7 games into your time at Bolton, Owen Coyle, the man who signed you, lost his job.
Yeah.
After what had happened at Liverpool just a few months earlier with Dalglish and Rodgers, was there any uncertainty at Bolton at the time in terms of a change of regime? You just said there was no regrets in your decision to leave Liverpool for Bolton, but did you any doubts ever enter your mind at the time when Coyle had left?
No, mate, no, not at all. Obviously, I'd had big discussions with Coyle for a long time over the summer. He showed real commitment to obviously bringing me in. I went in. He was a manager that I worked under a short time. He was different. He was a different type of what I'd been used to. He sadly lost his job at the time, so obviously new manager come in, and I just knew that I believed in myself, and I thought, listen, new manager, it is what it is. I've done this. I've had this at Liverpool for the last 5 years or whatever it was. We went through enough managers there at that time that it was now time for me to knuckle down and press on and prove what I'm about. I was really enjoying my football. I felt confident in my football, and I had belief in myself that I could prove that I should be playing still.
Okay, and obviously the man that came in to succeed Coyle was Dougie Freedman.
Yeah.
In that loan spell before you signed permanently, you were an integral part of the team, and unfortunately we missed out on the playoffs on the final day. Yeah. Your season had come to an end a few weeks before that, though. You'd broken your toe towards the end of March.
Yeah.
How was the mood at the club at that time? Just having missed out on the chance to return to the Premier League. Obviously, we've been nowhere near it since. But having come so close, just missing out by 1 goal, I think it was. Yeah. What was the mood at the time and obviously at the end of your loan spell?
It was a real... Listen, we were away and I broke my toe and I was devastated because we were still in and around it. Really had a feeling that we could go on and obviously be in challenge and be even like cement that playoff spot before the season had come down to the last day. So it was a real disappointment, but obviously a bit of excitement going down into the last day that we could still do it. And then, as you say, it's the way that we actually lost it by obviously goal difference was a real tough to take. But I was just devastated because I'd then been told that I could be back the week after, so I could come back for the playoff game. So again, it was all round disappointment at that time. But then looking back at the season and looking back at it, I really enjoyed it. It was a positive one. We had a real good campaign and real good fond memories of the squad and the team that we had then.
Yeah, because as you say, and going back to the question as well, we did miss out by, I believe it was 1 goal. It wasn't until in February time that we started to push for that. We had quite a struggle getting used to the Championship that year. And then February onwards went on this amazing run. I think Reading had done it the year before. They won quite a lot of the last 15, 20 games, went from relegation struggle to actually winning the league. So we'll fast forward to the summer of 2013. Obviously, you've had your loan spell. You've still got 12 months on your contract at Liverpool at that time. Yeah. But reports started to come out that you were being made available for transfer.
Yeah.
Blackburn were the club heavily linked with you at the time. And then, obviously, Bolton came back in for you as well. What made you turn down that chance to sign for Blackburn? Why come back to Bolton? I know you just said you had a good spell here. Was that enough for you to hold on for Bolton, who obviously were a week or 2 behind Rovers? Or was your mind just sort of made up that you just wanted to stay in that familiar surrounding?
I'd gone back. We'd literally flew to Australia with Liverpool for pre-season. I'd literally landed in Australia And a day later, obviously, they'd come in, Blackburn had come in and made a bid. Brendan pulled me aside and said, listen, Blackburn have put a bid in. We've told them, obviously, that we've talked to them, but I'd also like to let you know that we feel as if you deserve a new deal. If you'd like to, obviously, we think you deserve it, but I can't, again, guarantee game time. Again, having had another season of playing maybe 35, 40 games, it was just a decision that I needed to make myself, that I felt, you know what, I feel as if it's time for me to move on. Obviously, nothing could be done because I was in Australia, so we had 2 weeks in Australia still. So I said, listen, I'll sort everything out once I get back. I'm going to concentrate on having the Australia trip, get fit, get sharp, alive, and then I'll consider options once I get back. Then, obviously, by the time I got back, both Blackburn and Bolton had put the bids in, and it was just to be honest, no disrespect to Blackburn whatsoever. It was just the year that I had, the friends that I'd made at Bolton, how the club was run, everything about the club, the fans, the stadium, the training ground. It was just it was an easy decision for me to go back. That's obviously saying no disrespect for Blackburn at all. It's a fantastic club. But at the time, for me, I just felt it was a really easy, obvious decision to go to Bolton, and I fully enjoyed. Obviously, looking back now, it was a fantastic time I had there.
Okay, so that first season after you'd signed permanently, we went from 7th place the year before down to 14th. At the time, didn't really read that much into it. It's just second season back down, adjusting to life back in the Football League. With what's happened since, did you sort of notice any early warning signs that one or two things maybe just weren't quite right?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I think a lot behind the scenes wasn't right, but a lot of it wasn't put out to the players. So the players were just trying to crack on as much as we can. Everybody knows, even now, that first season when you come down to the Championship, it's difficult to get out. If you don't get out, then it is a real struggle. And obviously the balloon payments from the Premier League and stuff start to affect the wage bill, and things have to start changing a different plan. But listen, it was Dougie had a different way of doing things, whether they were right or wrong. Obviously, all fans are going to have their opinion. And it just, for whatever reason, we ended up finishing 14th. We didn't have as successful as the year before season, obviously. But it was, I didn't see any like firing signs or like blue, like alerting lights coming on now.
Okay, so just digging a little bit into these statistics now. So the next two seasons, so this is 14-15 and 15-16, you made exactly 23 appearances in both of those seasons. In the first of those two seasons, you ended up going on loan to Blackburn in the second half of that campaign. And nothing was really made of that at the time. It was a little bit of came a little bit as an unknown move to the fans, a bit strange. But it was 12 months later that questions began to be asked. Okay, it came out in the press that as you'd made 23 appearances, 50% effectively, if you made one more, money was due to Liverpool as part of your deal. Putting two and two together, it obviously looks like that would have been the case the year before as well. So as club captain at the time, how did it sort of feel for you as a player watching a team slide towards relegation, knowing that you couldn't actually be involved? And we're talking about the second of those two seasons there, 15-16. So effectively you've been frozen out because the money men of the club didn't want to shift a bit of cash onto Liverpool.
As I've just said, obviously we knew that the second season that not the loan year, and then the first year, the year after, we kind of knew that there was some sort of money trouble going on. There was maybe a few things going on in the background that the club were going to have to start changing the ways. Obviously, the deal that had been signed showed that if I played over 50% of games or whatever, then there was going to have to be a fee moved on to Liverpool. I.e. the reason why I went to Blackburn. They simply just, obviously Bolton just said, listen, we can't afford to obviously shell out the fee that we need to pay to Liverpool. And it was just for me then I could either sit there for 6 months or do nothing, or I could hopefully get out and play some games and just try and play. So that was the decision that I did. again, it was a difficult one, being club captain, playing 23 games solid, and all of a sudden being told, oh, by the way, you're not allowed to play again. Not down to performances or anything, but simply because over money. It was tough to take. But at the time, I was lucky enough where I could get out on loan, and obviously Gary Bowyer at the time at Blackburn took me on loan. Had a really good spell, enjoyed it, had a good time playing games till the end of the season. And then again, like you just said, again, the same scenario happened the year after. We tried to come to some agreements at the time with Liverpool to maybe split the fee over a certain amount of time. There was no agreement done, and a new rule had come into the EFL where you couldn't go on loan, on emergency loan anymore. So when it come to the stage of me playing obviously 23, 24 games, the January window transferred it to shut. So then that season, obviously when we got relegated for 12, 13 games, I just couldn't be involved whatsoever. I could train day to day, but literally down to, that was it. I couldn't play any game, couldn't help the team. And it was a real tough time to be involved watching, obviously, the lads fighting to try and stay out of the tough situation they were in.
Yeah, and I think you used the key word there right at the end, lads. I think at the time, a lot of the fans had been sort of asking for some of the youth players to be given a chance. And personally speaking, there's often a reason some of these lads don't get a chance, especially throwing in 6 or 7 of them all at once. And at the time, the results showed, yes, we've already been relegated, but going losing 6-0, no disrespect to Bristol City, but we shouldn't be losing 6-0 at places like that. Unfortunately, for the young lads that were coming in at the time, there was just no other option. 1 or 2 maybe should have been given a chance, but to throw in 6 or 7 of them at that one time, it's unfair on them, it's unfair on the club. And as we saw personally ourselves at the start of this season, it doesn't end well, very rarely ends well anyway. So just touch on that first season one more time, where 23 appearances and suddenly you were cast aside to Blackburn.
Yeah.
After turning Rovers down a couple of years earlier to sign for Bolton,
yeah,
we've seen through interviews from yourself in the past that you enjoyed your time at Ewood.
Yeah.
Was there ever any sort of chance that you could have stayed there permanently, or was it always a chance of, no, I've got 2 years left at Bolton, I'm going to stay?
No, mate, listen, I went there just to play football. I know, obviously, the time, it was the best decision for me to do. I really enjoyed the time. I've obviously admitted that. It was great to play football again. I'd been obviously shipped out because of a reason that was out of my control. So to play games and enjoy it at such a club of Blackburn, it was great. After that, I think there was talks, after we'd got relegated, there was talks that after that year, maybe they'd come back in to talk and maybe get a deal done when Coyle was the manager. Do you think you remember Coyle was the manager of Blackburn at the time, and they'd come back in and said, listen, we'd like to buy him or whatever. That I then did say, listen, I don't think it's right for me. A lot of the lads that were relegated, obviously at Bolton at the time, they were all staying. They were all willing to stay and fight and get the club promoted straight away. And we generally had a real good feel that we could really get this club straight back up. We didn't think we belonged in League One at that stage. We deserved to get straight back up. And obviously, luckily enough, we did. So it was the right decision in the end, and it was a successful season, and one that I've thoroughly enjoyed because of obviously the big squad that we kept from the year before.
Okay, so that was going to lead us on to the next question as well. So that summer 2016, the reset button was sort of set at Bolton. Obviously, we dropped down to League One. Phil Parkinson had come in. Neil Lennon had left around about the March time. It was Jimmy Phillips that had finished that season in charge. That League One season, a lot of the fans, even though you'd been with us for 4 years at that time, a lot of fans thought that was your best season in a Bolton shirt.
Yeah.
Okay, at the end of that season, you've just said you really enjoyed it. Obviously, we got promoted at the end of the season as runners-up.
Yeah.
Yourself and Darren Pratley lifting that trophy. Why you get a trophy for runners-up, people still don't understand, but it is what it is. The end of that season, there was talk of deals being agreed. There was talk of you wanting so much money, the club only putting so much money forward. There was talk of Ken Anderson shifting the goalposts. What actually happened at the time? Obviously, after 5 years, including your loan spell at Bolton, was it time just for a fresh challenge, or were there a little bit of games at the time in terms of not just finances, but also at that time, prime of your career, you need to make a decision, don't you? You need to stay at the club where you've enjoyed relative success, if barring the relegation, or you put yourself back on the market. So talk us through your departure.
Do you know what, mate? I'll be totally honest with you. I've got nothing to hide. I think everyone knows what happened. We had a very successful season. Loved it. Got promoted. Deserved it. Superb set of lads. Great manager. Had a great time. We all knew that the owner was a little bit to and fro. We'd finished the summer. We then had a meeting 2 days later, and everything was fine. The manager, the owner said, right, we're going to give you a new contract. Fantastic, no problem. Do exactly what I want. We just got promoted back up to the Championship. Perfect. Go and prove that I can do it again with this squad, with this team. He said, right, go on holiday. We'll come back. We'll get it sorted over the next 2-3 weeks, and then come back and we'll sort it. Went on holiday. Had a great time. Obviously, the season made the summer better. Come back, rang, managers, yeah, great. Get in touch with the owner. Got in touch with the owner. There was nothing to do with money whatsoever. Obviously, we knew that we were going to have to take a pay cut from what I was on for the 4 years before. No problem whatsoever. Wheats and all them had just signed new deals. I just said, listen, that's fine. Give me whatever Wheats and Bells are on. No problem. I'd take exactly the same. And the phone call was just literally simple from the owner. Oh, listen, sorry, we're going down the low market instead. Simple as that. Parkinson rang me and said, listen, I'm sorry, they've pulled the plug. They want to do this way. They want to go to low market and get younger. So that was as simple as that. That was obviously, you've seen the statement that I put out on the Instagram with the team picture. Loved every single minute of it, and things have been taken out of my hands. So that was how it happened, and that was how I left the club that I'd loved being at for the past 5 years.
Okay, so we won't spend much time talking about the owners at that time, because obviously we've done that so many times. Everyone is fed up of it, and there is another Bolton podcast at the moment that actually bleep out the name of Ken Anderson, such as how people just don't want to talk about him anymore. So the time you left Bolton, I think it was around about August. I think the season was just about to start, or might have actually already started. It was very late that was confirmed.
Yeah.
Obviously, that left you in a bit of a difficult position. Whether you'd done pre-season or not, I'm not entirely sure. But it took you a while to actually get sorted with a new club. I think we got into October before you'd signed for Blackpool.
Yeah.
So, given the uncertainty that was surrounding Bolton at the time and what he'd left behind, with the Oyston family at Blackpool, knowing what had gone on with the Andersons at Bolton, what actually possessed you to sign on at Blackpool at that particular time?
Do you know what, mate? It happened so lately because at the time, Ken Anderson was still, you know what I mean? The owner was still messing around. He was flicking from, yes, we want you back. No, we don't. Yes, we do. Yes, we don't. So that's why it took so long for me to come to some sort of agreement to get into somewhere. So at the time, I was training at Liverpool Academy with the 23s. Keeping fit, doing pre-season, keeping as sharp as I could, doing exactly what they were doing. So I knew I was ready for whatever would come. And I come to obviously a phone call with Gary Bowyer. He said, listen, I'd love you to come in and train. And it wasn't, again, I didn't sign to the club because of the owner. I signed the club because of the manager and what I'd worked in before and wanted to get back playing football. To do with the owner was nothing to do with any signing or the reason why I signed. It was just to play football and get back playing again. And again, another season where I've joined with a manager that I'd worked under before and thrived under, and he knew what I was. He knew how to get the best out of me, and it was again at that time the right decision to make.
Okay, one thing that's standing out from speaking to you this morning, you mentioned leaving Liverpool, coming to Bolton. It was a football decision.
Yeah.
Leaving Bolton, signing for Blackpool. Not really interested in Ken Anderson or the Oystons. Again, it's a football decision.
Yeah.
Obviously, everyone's different, but
yeah.
For yourself, it sounds like everything is all purely about just getting on that field and playing the game. How much, from your own point of view, how much do you sort of pay attention to what's going on behind the scenes, or do you just try your best to ignore that and get on with playing the game that you love so much?
Mate, I've been brought up to play football. You know what I mean? I've worked my life to play football at the end of the day. And whatever goes on in the background with the business side of it, it's got nothing to do with me. I work hard to prove what I'm about. I love playing football. I wake up every day wanting to go to training. Love it. That attitude hasn't changed from the moment that I first stepped out on the field, and it won't change till the last step that I'm able to. My legs will keep me going. Again, every decision I've made in football is about the football. That is all it's about. I don't want to be training Monday to Friday and not play on a Saturday. Do you know what I mean? It's like anyone's job that you aim for something of a weekend, and I work my socks off from Monday to Friday to play every Saturday and give it my all on a Saturday. That's all I've ever wanted to do in football, and that's all I'll continue to do. The bonuses that come with it, yeah, they're fantastic. You know what I mean? I can look after my family and friends and whatever. But from a young kid, it's not been about the lifestyle. It's about playing football on that grass field and living a boy's dream.
Okay, so sort of coming towards the end now.
Yeah.
You've still got a few more years in your legs.
Okay.
I hope so. You've had nearly 3 years at Blackpool now, and you're established there, just as you were at Bolton before that.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going to happen with the rest of this season. Let's just be honest about that. There's no point even speculating on that at this point.
Yeah.
So, what are the hopes and dreams? You've already said when you signed for Blackpool, you'd just been promoted at Bolton. That was the ambition to happen at Blackpool. Obviously, a Premier League club a few years before, just like Wanderers were. So, these last few years of your career, what are the hopes and dreams? What have you still got left to achieve?
As much as possible, mate. I've got as much to achieve as a 21-year-old lad. I'm 31 years of age, but I've still got that ambition and desire to improve and be as successful as possible. Currently at the club that I'm at, we have a new owner. He's very ambitious. He wants to take the club places where they want to go, and I want to be on that journey. Obviously talking about a different club, but I'd love to be involved in that. Again, this season we don't know what's going to happen or where we're going to end up or whatever's going to happen, but for the rest of my career, I just want to be successful, be happy, and just be playing as many games as possible.
Okay, so earlier on you mentioned at the time of you leaving Bolton, you mentioned David Wheater, you mentioned Josh Feller.
Yeah.
Just going to fire over a quick fire Q&A now, just 3 very quick questions.
Oof.
Bolton, answers only on this one.
Right, okay.
Okay, so at Bolton, you had Owen Coyle, Neil Lennon, who we've not actually mentioned at any point earlier in this interview. And aside from Jimmy Phillips, temporary manager, we'll ignore him for the time being. We've also got Phil Parkinson. So of the 3 managers, which one stood out personally as your, I wouldn't say favourite, but which one had the biggest influence on your time at Bolton? The reason, before you do jump in with that, the reason that we haven't actually spoken about Neil Lennon in detail so far, looking at the stats, you were a regular under every single manager. I'm actually going to backtrack there because there's 4 managers. We've left out Owen Coyle because he only played 7 games under him before he lost his job.
Yeah.
So apart from Neil Lennon, where you were non-use sub quite a lot, which was topic of discussion at the time, Dougie Freedman, Phil Parkinson, the other 2. Who stands out as your sort of favourite, for want of a better term?
You could probably answer it for me, couldn't you? I think you'll know my yeah, of course, Parky. Listen, Parky for me was a fantastic manager on and off the field. How he worked out with our side that we had, how he got the best out of us to obviously bounce straight back and give us the belief and confidence that we could. I really enjoyed my time with him. I've got no bad word to say about him. I think he's a good manager. I think he done well for the club with everything that was going on behind the scenes and what he was dealing with. He had a successful period and it was a good time. Dougie was good as well. Listen, I won't say Dougie wasn't good. He was good for me. He was a good manager. Things just didn't work out. Owen was good. Again, he was a nice guy, but things just didn't work with Neil Lennon. We won't go into them details, whatever. We just, you know what I mean? It just didn't work.
Okay, and obviously you mentioned Phil Parkinson there, such a good manager. It's a shame, really, that his time at Bolton sort of cast with that shadow, that cloud over his head.
Of course.
Ownership, financial worries, this, that and the other. And we wish him all the best at Sunderland.
Yeah.
Just to move on from the managers,
yeah.
we obviously mentioned David Wheater, Josh Feller. I don't think it's any secret. We've all seen social media over the years, big friends.
Yeah.
But who would you put down as the best player from your time at Bolton? We're not talking about friend now, talking about player.
Oh, God. Do you know what? Mark Davis.
Good shout.
Player. Honestly, God, absolute. The ability that lad had was like, he was quality. His injuries, honestly, if he didn't have his injuries, he'd be flying still now, even higher.
I think he's only the same age as you, isn't he? So
yeah, I still speak to Sparky now. He's a good lad. He's a really nice guy. Get on with him really well. Still speak to him now. He's keeping himself busy, but he'd have to be the best player for me. We played with Petrov. Petrov was an absolute player at the time. He had a beautiful left foot. Marcus Alonso. Who else did we have? Obviously Wheats. Chris Eagles was there at the time. David Ngog. God, I'm trying to think of them all now. There's loads of lads I've been playing with at the time, but yeah, Sparky for me would have to be up there.
Just while you mentioned a couple of names there. This wasn't one of the original 3 questions, but
Okay.
At your time, towards the end of your time at Bolton, we saw a few of the younger players coming through, and some more of those have come through, obviously, in the last couple of years, whether it's forced or deserved due to their own progress. Names such as Zach Clough, was it clear to you guys that he was going to make that step up, or was there anybody around at that particular time who you were a little bit surprised didn't make the step up?
No, I think Cloughie, he was a fantastic kid coming through. His technical ability and his finishing was next to none. And for me, I've said it to him. I've said it to himself. He won't mind me saying it. The fact that I knew he was going to make the step up, but I felt he made the move 6 months too early. I felt he should have maybe gone to Forest and then come back on loan for the rest of the season, and then obviously then kicked on the year after. Because I felt that when that League One season in the first 6 months, he was flying. He was playing well. He was proving what he was about. Okay, yeah, he got the move which he deserved, and obviously things have gone on. Whatever happened after that, but I felt he really could have progressed and gone even better if it just spent another 6 months at the club at the time. But I think overall, he'd have to be probably the one that came through the ranks as a kid and really showed like his standard.
Yeah, because at the time, those first 6 months, the partnership Cloughie and Adam Lafondra struck up was as good as anything we've seen in the last maybe 15, 20 years at Bolton. At times where you're really crying out for strikers to see what we actually had there and could so easily have kept hold of. It's quite a shame to see, obviously, where we've gone because of the money mainly.
Look at that squad that we had in League One. You know what I mean? We had Gary Medine up top, Josh Fella, Lafondra, Zach Clough, Amiobi, Tails, Moraes, me, Pratt, Wheats, Beavers, Dorian, Jem. You know what I mean? The list is endless. It was a hell of a squad to have. And like obviously Dino, Moxie, Laurie Wilson, like Jack Alnwick, Mark Howard. You know what I mean? We had unbelievable like cover all around the squad, and it was class to be a part of. And like you say, that it was a fantastic squad to be in.
Yeah, again, just a shame that it got ripped apart due to circumstances beyond everybody's control. And we'll end with this one. And again, I think I already know the answer to it. You mentioned Phil Parkinson before.
Yeah.
But favourite memory of your time at Bolton? And I'm going to take out what I think will be the obvious answer.
Yeah.
I'm going to take out the promotion, that Leicester game, that Peterborough game. So aside from that, favourite memory?
You know what, it's hard, you know, because it's just so I've got. Listen, my time at Bolton, I absolutely loved it, and I look back and think it was a fantastic 5 years of my career. I've got so many good memories, games that we've come back from, games we've won at home, big games, moments and seasons. God. Oh, it's a tough one, that, you know. I think I'll pick one out, but there are a lot. But if I have to pick one out, only because I've seen a photo of it here, after everything that had gone on, being unable to play in the last, like obviously 12 games towards the relegation season, to then be relegated into League One, and then to have Sheffield United at home, the first game of the season, to then obviously score the volley and to win that game 1-0 after all that negativity from the year and the summer before. I'd probably think as a personal one, but as a club as well, as a Bolton club as well, as fan base and stuff like that. I think really to kick on the season and beat Sheffield United at home 1-0 and obviously score the winning goal for me, I think that'd have to stick out there quite highly. There are obviously other ones, i.e. signing, making the first start this season on loan was a fantastic year, but to try and pick one out of a thing, yeah, I'd have to say probably the Sheffield United game at home.
A huge thank you to Jay Spearing for being our guest on Walking Down the Manny Road. At the top of the show, we mentioned this was being treated very much as a pilot episode of the podcast, and that means your feedback is absolutely essential to us. Positive or negative, you can leave it on social media. On Twitter, we are under the handle @BurndenAces, or you can leave us a comment on facebook.com/BurndenAces. DM and private messaging facilities are open on both channels, and you can also email me directly using the address admin@burndenaces.co.uk. Again, your feedback is absolutely essential to the future of this podcast. Whether it's a feature request, whether you don't want us to continue at all, or whether this becomes a weekly, fortnightly or monthly edition, is entirely up to you. We acknowledge Bolton Wanderers are very lucky to have 4 existing podcasts, one through the club themselves, another through the Bolton News, one through BBC Radio Manchester, and also through the Lion of Vienna suite. At this particular time, due to COVID-19, we have the time to produce the content. If you want it, get in touch with us and we'll see what we can do. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening. I've been Chris Mann. This has been Walking Down the Manny Road, and we'll see you next time.